All right, hello everyone. This is Nothing But Worry, and I'm Lance Ash, and here next to me on the sofa is
Bonnie.
And your relationship to me is
Long-suffering wife.
okay. So next week is the 4th of July, which coincides at the beginning of my vacation. So next week I work 4 days, and then I'm off 10. The reason I bring this up is because all this week I keep thinking, next week's a short week, then vacation. Vacation. So this week has been particularly rough, mentally and physically. Physically because it's just been go, go, go. Partly that's my fault because, Bonnie can tell you why it's partly my fault.
Because you're a damn fool and you work too hard.
I get riled up at work. I don't know if it's because of caffeine. I don't know if it's because I work out ahead of time. But I get going. Especially I swap back and forth weightlifting one night, calisthenics the next. Weightlifting nights are my ibuprofen days. I could take ibuprofen every other day. And so when I get to work, I'm slightly less pained than usual and a little more limber. Plus, I'm juiced up from the 6 cups of tea and working out.
Is 6 correct? How many tea bags do you have in each cup of tea?
Well, it's 2 tea bags in each cup because they're big cups.
There are 12 bags of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they usually make pitchers of tea with like 4 tea bags?
When I was growing up, I would make a whole gallon of sweet tea out of, I think it was 4 tea, might have been 6 tea bags, I can't remember. And more than that, we had an exact number of saccharin tablets to add too.
Yeah, my mama had that too. But she had one of those stir teas. What was it, Lipton or something? It came
Oh, an instant thing?
Yeah. So you wouldn't boil it. It was just instant. And then the jar itself became her glass. She would keep a jar in the fridge full of ice covered with tea with her lipstick stained straw sticking in it. And so anytime she wanted, she could go and suck up some caffeine and some saccharin. And she wore red lipstick. Red. There's no other way to describe it. Red lipstick. So the straw was always stained red.
I haven't tasted saccharin in years.
I taste it when I take my tea every morning. I replaced... Isn't that what Sweet and Low is?
Yeah.
I replaced my Sweet and Low, my sugar with Sweet and Low a while back. My sugar level got up to hovering around 100, so I replaced it. And that dropped it down significantly because that was the only consistent sugar I had in my diet.
Well, we and my grandmother, everybody around here, you'd buy a jar with saccharin tablets in it. And you'd knock out, 10, 12, whatever it was, the prescribed number. Well, anyway, rough week for me, and for how was the week for you?
Horrific. My autoimmune disease is flaring up right now, and I'm going through hell. I'm walking around the house with a cane, grabbing onto furniture, trying to hold myself up. And nothing I've taken has helped with the pain. And I go for x-rays tomorrow and some blood work. Yay, Lance is going to take me.
Yeah. So I told, today was the day I took my paintings down from the show at the Earth Fair. And so a friend of mine who lives in New York is down visiting, and I told him, today's your last day to see the show. So he met me over there before I took the paintings down. And he didn't know about this show, so I told him about it, and I'm going to send him a link after we finish, after I post it. And he knew both Bonnie and me in high school. Anyway, so hello to. I won't say anybody's name. We can say other people's names. We'll have to work our way into saying his name. Um, so in connection with that, I was going to say something.
How'd your visit go?
It was a nice visit. We had talked for about an hour at the one of the booths at the dining area at the place.
One of the things I don't understand about him is why he wants to have anything to do with anybody from high school. That includes us. But, I mean, high school was just not hell. It was just a big nothing.
Well, it's your
Just
formative
happy to marry
years,
you.
you know.
And I got stuck with somebody from high school. And your baggage of friends.
Okay.
Coterie of bad baggage.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I
so I'm getting ready to take the paintings out, and this woman who worked there came to me and was like telling me how wonderful she thought my paintings were, and I just thought, yes, this is what it's all about. Compliment from a random stranger.
females.
Female.
Oh, Lord.
So, and the other thing, right before the show started tonight, I told Bonnie we had a couple of topics I was going to bring up for sure. The other one is this. We've mentioned a couple of times on previous episodes that we've been doing the edibles.
Which are legal.
Yes, Bonnie wants to throw that in. All right, but so far we've only tried the gummies. This is from Cheech and Chong. Okay, their licensing deal. So I said I really want to try the chews because they're more expensive, so therefore they'd be better. All right, this is my assessment. I think they kick in faster. I think they last a good long while, but it's not my kind of high.
Why?
It's more of just a. Okay, I'll tell you what. See, normally for me,
Is it warm blanket?
the kind of high I'm looking for is the kind that gets me in the mood to paint, to draw, to play the guitar, to write, to be in my art zone. Okay. The high I found from my brief experience so far, we got a big jar to work our way through, is that it's more the kind of high that is conducive to conversation. You can sit and it gets me, to not chatty, but able to converse with people very smoothly and
Relaxed.
and it's very I found it, and the thing is, I had some months ago before some family get together, and it must have been that because it made me nice and talky, but not overly so, like some aggressive drunk or something.
That's you on alcohol. You're like that on alcohol.
Really, see, I don't like that. I don't like people who are like that, and I don't want to be like that. What else to report? Actually, I have a couple things on my list I have a card I keep with me all the time. It's my daily list of shit to do.
Well, I wanted to ask you about work. You've had a major change at work. It hasn't quite gone into effect, but you got introduced to something new.
Yeah, we have our new supervisor who just plainly doesn't give a shit about anything.
And the guy who's been filling in,
He's leaving.
that was this last night?
Yeah.
So he's on vacation for 2 weeks, and then
Goes
he's
back to
off to being a carrier again.
Yeah. So that's not good, but it'll all work
We
itself
discovered
out.
this week that I had met him before.
Yeah.
I was working at a book warehouse and running their online sales, and we also ran a horror program where we sent horror videos to people every month. And so we would have to call for a pickup from a carrier. And we'd send them out with huge mail bags of hundreds of packages going all over the world. And he would come pick it up, and come to find out, I remembered that his daughter had wrecked a couple of Jeeps and other things, and all the misery he was going through with his daughter driving, and the insurance rates, and the replacement and repairs for the car.
Well, I'm not worried about the new supervisor too much, and I'll tell you why. I'll exemplify what I'm going to say by saying this. I read an interview with William Steig today, and then he said, I don't know how old he was during the interview, older than I am probably, but he said, I've just reached the age where I realize if this is a good week, next week will be, if this is the bad week, don't worry, you'll have a good week.
It's a roller coaster.
It is. And so I'm not going to worry. I've been through this so many times with new supervisors, and you don't know anything about them, and they appear to be either overbearing or lazy, or both, which is even worse probably.
It's going to get overbearing when they start cracking down on her for some minor infraction.
Exactly, yeah. So anyway, there's that. Now I have a little list here. I need to go over. This might prompt some conversation. Okay, I picked up the paintings.
Oh, are you doing anything for a certain somebody's birthday coming up? No.
All right. Bonnie bought me some new shoes. They seem to be working out okay. I want to try to get back on Instagram. What do you think? Set up a whole new account.
We can give it a whirl. I've got all the art saved.
Okay. All right. What was the other significant thing on here? Oh, I thought of another cover song I'd like for somebody to do. I would like for The Cult to cover This Side of Love by Terence Trent D'Arby. I think that'd be interesting to hear that. So I'm building up like a fantasy tribute album of I'm a really rich guy who just uses his money to fulfill his aesthetic leanings.
Who's that band that sang Ants in the Kitchen?
That's Masters of Reality.
Now they have a song about a sparrow or a bird or something.
Yeah, I wish I could fly.
I
wish I was a bird. Birds can fly.
I always thought that Paul McCartney should cover that song.
That would be cool.
There's a certain level of back and forth between the generations of musicians, and oftentimes you'll have an homage album where all the young people cover the old guy stuff. And then it was turned on the end with Johnny Cash with one of his last albums with Rick Rubin producing, was it? Where
they did 4 albums together, I believe.
He covered younger people's work, like covered 9 Inch Nails and other things. I think that Paul McCartney should do that. So much he's inspired so much, and I think that it would be interesting to hear the people that have been inspired by him have him cover their songs.
I don't think in my fantasy I could be rich enough to bribe Paul McCartney into doing that, but I could The Cult.
I wouldn't spend money on something like that. There's too many people wasting money. Like this idiot Bezos getting married and costing millions upon millions of dollars.
I disagree, because if it is a truly eccentric expenditure for the purpose of just...
What, performance art?
No, aesthetic. Now the Bezos thing, yeah, I agree. But I'm talking about somebody who... Well, I mean, I'm going to pay all these rock stars to cover just incongruous songs. Not ridiculous, but stuff I think they truly could do.
So apparently there are all these oil barons and such out in Saudi Arabia, these areas that prohibit women from driving and wearing decent clothes and drinking and homosexuality and such. They'll turn around and spend $100,000 to $500,000 plus to bring in these superstars, these pop stars, to come and perform for some damn party.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's one of the reasons that, when I was like, I don't know, 16, I wanted to be a rock star, and that was my dream for several years. But looking back on it, I'm just not a performer. I just don't. And then, the more you step into the world of show business, the more you become like a, trained seal. Sing for your supper.
One of the things that I hate about the Bezos wedding is the whole cult of celebrity. You got the crap like the Kardashian people showing up and all these other names, celebrity names. I don't understand that whole following somebody.
If any of those people have even the slightest bit of self-awareness, and wit, you know that they've got to think to themselves, "This is my life. I'm just famous for my ass crack and my boobs, so
I think
I
it
have to
was
just."
The Guardian or the New York Times this week interviewed a guy who is a professional, I kid you not, a professional Jeff Bezos
Impersonator.
Impersonator,
Oh my
yes.
God.
And he was there walking around getting pictures with everybody. And he says he's approached all over the place, all over the world, because he looks like Jeff Bezos. Number one, get a fucking wig. Change your appearance. This is not a guy to emulate. But he apparently likes living the lifestyle, and people pay him to come and show up and do these little things. And oh my God, it's not just the cult of celebrity; it's the cult of celebrity, of celebrity, of celebrity, of celebrity, and all the ilk who follow them. And I don't understand the drama. I don't understand why anybody would want the kind of drama that plays out in these reality TV shows and these Instagram stars' lives and such.
Well, when I was like back in my wannabe rock star days, I wanted to be really famous. But now in this world, this is not the world that I would want to be famous in. I wanted to be famous back in the 70s or something, 60s. But this world, no. I think
Invited to Mystique. What is that island?
Mystique, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Go party with Princess Anne, huh?
no, with Mick Jagger. And
well, she was there too, and he was there.
That reminds me. I think it's something in a minute. But in this world, no. The best thing in this world, this artistic civilization, is to just stay under the radar. Try to make a living at it if you can, but don't put your face and name and personality out there. Just be the mystery man who signs the work,
Banksy.
Yeah, sort of. Years ago, I had this idea for, and this must be true. The situation I'm about to describe must be true. If you logic it out, you'll see. We all know that the big famous people of all time, they know each other, and they circulate. Well, in their midst, there must be people that only they know, and they get tired of of their own selves being public property. They don't have any private time. They don't have anything like that. So to balance that out, they have people that they keep only to themselves. Did you hear what Mickey did today? Or Zamfir or something. And
Balthazar, dear.
Right. And he paints portraits, or he is a like some zither master or something. I don't know, or maybe just some funny writer that only they know, and they keep these people to themselves. They're not known outside of the realms of the A-listers. What do you say?
Blah blah blah.
Okay. Well, I just thought it'd be the funny basis for like a book or a movie or something. I'm famous. Nobody knows about you except for the famous.
It's funny you should mention that. I was staying at the home of a famous anthropologist a number of years ago. And sitting across the table from me was a famous military guy. And on the other side of the table was an NPR reporter. And on the other side of the table was our host. And so we're all talking and such. And later that evening, I call home back to the States. And I said, hi, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. What have you been doing? And I said, well, I just had dinner with, and I just named these people. And my mother, who is military, goes, oh my God, of all the people that she recognized, it was, you had dinner with Colonel David Hackworth. I'm like, yes, I did. She goes, did you know that he ran brothels? And I said, yes, as a matter of fact, it was one of our discussions over dinner, So, yeah, there are obscure little people that other people don't know about, and then you happen to meet the right person. They go, oh, "You met them?" You know, it's like, yeah. So what?
Yeah.
It was dinner. But, and then the next night, I went and had dinner with more famous people, and it's like, I don't care if it's Jonathan Demme or not. I mean, and Rudy Stern, neon artist.
Funny you mentioned him because
Oh, Jonathan Demme, yeah.
Clay and I talked about him today.
Really?
Yeah, because I can't remember what we were talking about, but I said, "Have you read this Joan Didion essay about living in New York when she was 28 or so?" And I said, "Now, who was her husband?" And we brought him up.
Dominic?
No, I'm thinking of Dunn. You said
Dunn.
Demi. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're thinking of Dunn, Griffin Dunn, and all that whole folks. Yeah. The Jonathan Demme's different.
Jonathan Demme's who now?
He was the director. I think he did the movie Philadelphia. Anyway, so I'm at this table, and there's like 20 of us sitting around the table, and one of the guys there thinks that he is as famous as Jonathan Demme because he was part of the whole New York club scene back when they had all those famous clubs back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a famous neon artist. And he was down there, he was working with another obscure filmmaker, and he himself is a filmmaker now and stuff. And listening to him blather on about himself to Jonathan Demme, who, Philadelphia had already been done at this point, and everybody who was. It was embarrassing. It was truly embarrassing because this guy, Rudy Stern, thought that he was on the same level.
Huh. So.
I can say this now because both of them are dead.
So, anyway, I have not gotten much sleep today, and I've got to try to get this painting done this weekend. There's a section of it that is really difficult because it's tiny little figures on a TV screen. And so I gotta do that. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. Tomorrow I gotta drive you to the X-ray place. Was that it?
Blood work first, and then that's the labs.
Blood work for both of us, or just you?
Just me.
And then take you over.
I have it for 2 doctors though.
And then take you over to the X-ray
and then
place.
Take me over to the X-rays at the hospital. Yeah.
Okay. What time of day is that going to be?
7 for the blood work, 7:45 for the X-rays.
Okay, good. Because we
we
got to get out of the heat as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's horrible today.
By the time we get through with the X-rays, if you wanted to stop at Fresh Market and get yourself, I don't know, one of those raspberry cruffins.
Maybe we'll see.
A big cup of coffee.
No.
Fresh Market is a place that I used to call the home of the $20 coffee because we used to go in there when they had free coffee. And it was a smaller size, but it was free. And Lance would go, okay, we're out. I need some caffeine. Let's go to Fresh Market and get some free coffee. We could not leave that place without spending at least $20, usually about $60. And we would come out of there with little bags of opera mints and some kind of specialty nuts or something.
Well,
and then a frozen pizza and some cheeses.
They had the Greek pizza, which they made in their deli, which I guess they don't sell anymore.
I don't know.
That was really good pizza.
I've got fresh basil right now and tomatoes. That's part of it. And I've got the Kalamata olives.
It's supposed to have big slabs of... no, that's not that.
It does have big slabs of mozzarella, but I can't do
mozzarella
anymore because I can't do dairy anymore.
But there was something else unique about that. Oh, big cloves of garlic were on it.
Yes, roasted garlic. That's true.
Yeah. Oh my God,
so
I
good.
got to stay awake tonight. At least a little bit longer. Get started on some stuff. I don't know. We may wrap this up early tonight.
Maybe.
I can't think of anything else to talk about.
Your schedule got really twisted and turned, having to pick up your paintings today and stay out. It's really difficult for you working the night shift as you do because you keep your sleep schedule the same, which is beneficial for you because you're able to paint at night when you would otherwise be at work. So that means you're completely focused, but it means our weekends are shot. I mean, we have so little time for anything.
Yeah. Okay. I can't think of anything else. This is a short episode. Let's see what else is suggested here. Well, I discovered this cute little magazine for children called Chickadee. I sent it to you, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
I sent you an email about it, saying it was how cute it was. It's like a little digest-sized magazine for kids. It's published in Canada, and it's just like similar to the way the old World magazine was, but this has a little more like cartoons in it and puzzles, and they throw in a little learning, like, this is the so and so animal, and it bears live young, and even though it has a beak or something crap like that. I used to love getting World magazine. That was another thing that Jonathan Langley introduced me to. This kid that I hung out with in the summers between the 4th and 6th grade, I think it was, introduced me to Harriet the Spy. His favorite song one summer was Copacabana by Barry Manilow. Played it over and over and over. And introduced me to World magazine. And Bonnie is pointing at herself because she went out with him 1 or 2 times in college.
No, I went out with him initially in high school.
How would you meet him in high school?
My friend Carolyn went to school with him.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, you two got to meet each other. You're both of the same ilk. I don't know how much she meant of, rude or complimentary. And we went out a couple of times, and yeah, he was fun. He was strange. He wore a beret. I mean, he wasn't as weird as the Ashford Shellnut kid, who was big into, what was that orange movie? Malcolm McDowell.
Oh, Clockwork Orange, yeah.
Yeah. Played the entire fucking album from that, which isn't bad.
Album? You mean the electronic?
Soundtrack.
That's Wendy Carlos, isn't it?
There's a lot of classical in that.
But that's the person who did the music for that movie. It's all synthesizer. I believe the Jupiter Symphony, a lot of Beethoven, because that was his favorite composer in the movie.
Had giant posters in his room of that movie. I was like, who the hell am I with, He later became a gynecologist.
Jonathan introduced me to Mad Magazine I'd never heard of. There was these board games that regular parents don't buy their kids. These are like college parents, professors, people. And he had, what else did he have?
When I saw him the last time, it was while we were at college. He was on his way to teach English in Japan. Still had the stupid beret.
Well,
now he's a chiropractor.
I remember reading Harriet the Spy, just being absorbed in it. It's one of the first books of that kind I ever read.
I have never read it. I never saw the movie.
The movie sucked.
Kids were little.
Well, I read it to the kids. You never listened in?
No, I think I must have been baking or something at that point.
It's just,
There were times I did sit in on some of your stories. Like I remember you reading Gatsby, Old Man of the Sea to them. And I sat in through the entire Harry Potter series. You read that in voice.
I read them as I lay dying as well.
Yes, you did.
Maybe we talked about this already?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
No one else. We always rehash the same thing.
Well, I had forgotten until recently that the girl wants to get to town to get an abortion, and the doctor makes her fuck him in exchange for the pill. And the pill's worthless. It's
of sorts. Yeah.
But remember, the pill was just nothing.
It was nothing. Yeah.
It was like a seed or something, and she realized she'd been had.
Yeah, she paid whatever money she had for it.
Oh my God! What a depressing group of people.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if he writes it in code by having it be all first-person perspective, because if you objectively showed these people and what they're doing and what they're like, it would be, I don't know, sort of lurid, like,
Well, that's what Tobacco Road was for later on.
yeah, probably.
But
I never read that.
that was just
And God's Little
trashy, and
Acre
it
is
really,
probably apparently even worse.
yeah, apparently it really set America on its idea about what Southerners were
Well,
like.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it's,
I remember in the
ugh.
50s or early 60s they had that TV show, The Real McCoys, and that's just another example that the Civil War fucked the South and Appalachia up for over 100 years and set them back into the Stone Age. And all during the beginnings of the 20th century, it was just a common trope in America. Well, people down in the South, they're all inbred, illiterate, you know, uh, idol worshippers or something.
Do you remember my family down south of Macon and how Southern they spoke?
Hmm.
It was just ungodly how Southern it was.
I
It was
remember,
worse than the family up in Tennessee.
I remember my mother in particular was always dragging us off to some obscure relative's house because she had to maintain ties somehow. And I don't know, I was 7, 8, something like that, maybe younger, like 6, 5. But we go to these people's house, and I remember my mother telling me, now listen, these people don't have much. So whatever they put in front of you to eat, you just eat it and keep your mouth shut. But anyway, this house was one of the original old-timey farmhouses up on not even brick risers, but like makeshift rock and stone and
Yep.
brick risers, just whatever they could find to
Did
create.
they have a dog trot in the middle, front
I don't
to back
remember what the
door
inside
run through?
was much about, but steps leading up to this door, which is basically floating in air 4 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
And hold on, pause. All right, I believe we were talking about high society.
Farmhouses.
So yeah, this the kind of thing you bend down and look, you can see all the way under the house to the other side to the backyard.
Yeah.
And I don't. All my recollection is that these people were ancient, and it was just like we killed a chicken today so that you people can feast.
Oh my
Here's your
God.
piece of the wing.
I remember Mama taking us to one family reunion. When we were growing up, we never lived closer than 2 hours from any of our relatives. So you always had to do at least an overnight trip. And one time she got in her head that we were going to go to a big reunion on one side. Years later, my mother would try to drag me to a big reunion on the other side. But as part of the reunion tour, we went back to the old homestead. And the homestead had been maintained until the Great Depression hit. And the family moved into Macon at that point from the homestead, and they left all the sharecroppers on the land just to use and live off of during the Great Depression. And these were folks that had formerly been owned by the family and their descendants. But this house had gone into disrepair. But you could make out enough. There was a front porch, extremely high roof line. It was a single story. And like what you're saying, it had a combination of stones and bricks and such holding it up underneath. So you could just look straight under it. But when you went to the front door had been left open. Like I said, it was just overrun with vines. And you could look from the front door to the back door, and there was a whole hallway. It's called a dog trot, and let the breeze come in. And then to either side were the rooms. And it reminded me of a story that my grandmother had told me of being in that house as a child. She was about 3 or 4 years old at the time, and she had a memory of walking into every single room from off the dog trot and seeing people laying on the table, on chairs, laying on the floor, laying everywhere. And it was the people who lived there, her family, but it was also the help. And everybody was sick. And one of her earliest memories was of the Spanish flu in that house. And she told us about that at that time. And then on the back part of the property, there was a family graveyard. And there were numerous graves of people who had died fighting the Civil War.
Well, I do remember a big gathering, probably my dad's side of the family. And I don't know how extended this grouping was, but it was people I'd never met before, like my grandfather's cousins or something like that. But this place is the kind of place where the kitchen's in the back to keep the heat away from the rest
Oh,
of the
yeah.
house as much. And they had a black woman working for them, and apparently she'd worked for whoever owned the house for years, like come in every day and help with cleaning or cooking or whatever.
Yeah, May
And
had
even
some
as a
people that
kid,
did work for her
even
for
as a
folks who lived
kid,
in
I
Macon.
thought this is kind of weird, But I remember there
You
were
remember
several
that?
houses we visited, huh?
Do you remember that picture of my mother when she was a baby? They're out in the garden, and there's a hedge behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's playing on a blanket. Her mother's there, and her mother, my mother's grandmother, and off to the side are these black women who were their nurses.
Hmm. Well, it seems to me there were a couple of houses we visited when I was little that had the same layout. You'd open the front door to your right. There was an opening, like a big doorway leading into some parlor or something. But right adjacent to that was a staircase that went up to the next floor, and it kind of wound around at the top so that you could look over and see people who are coming in the door upside down. But we went to this one, these kids I've never met before, and we're all just immediately running around together, acting like idiots, and running up the stairs, and these people from down below screaming, "Don't go up there! The floor is not, sturdy. You'll fall right through the roof of the ceiling."
Oh my God.
Oh my God! And there's junk everywhere, like 100-year-old chests with linens that somebody's grandmother laid down or something like that.
My mother had a one of those big travel trunks
Mm-hmm.
for years.
Like a steamer
And,
trunk.
yeah, and you would open it, and as you opened it, there was a drawer that kind of extended along with the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
And it had little subsections and stuff, and inside of it were all these things that had been collected by the women in her family for generations. And there was tatting, which is a form of lace making. There were samples of embroidery, and what is that particular type of embroidery? Anyway, there was also a tin with flowers on it, and I ended up getting that, and Reed now has it, and she keeps her sewing stuff in it, same as her great grandmother
That's funny.
had done. It
Um,
was crewel work. It wasn't just it. They didn't do
mhm.
cross stitch. They did crewel work and some other type of embroidery
Well, I
as well as
remember
lace making.
my mother had this jewelry box that was like, nothing special. It was basically a wooden box with sort of like some kind of padding on the outside, like early, I don't know, it was a 60s thing. But you'd open it up and there was like a little hinged shelf thing that would pop up with it. And she had all this stuff she collected over the years. And as a kid, I thought it was just fascinating. Like some necklace she had beaded together and some stuff that
What
her.
about that pearl necklace I have that somebody beaded together?
Mm-hmm.
It's multiple strands of pearls all together, and they
Oh,
put
they
these.
braided all that together?
Yeah, it was not braided. It was like a twisted type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave that to me from your family.
Oh, really? You'll have to show
Yeah.
it to me later. But it was always like there was a poodle dog brooch that she had got when she was like, I guess in her little that when we were going to that modeling school. And as a kid, I was just fascinated. And she had all these silver dollars in there that she collected from back in the 70s, and I stole them years later to buy booze with.
My mother trained as a classically trained pianist. She didn't do anything with it. And whenever she would do recitals for the ladies in Macon, they would each come up and put a silver dollar on the piano, and it was meant to show their gratitude for her playing. And so she had stacks and
Wow.
stacks of these silver dollars. And it was just something that the gentle ladies did, with making. But
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really feel bad about it now, but I did feel bad about it at the time or after I got caught.
that's when you felt bad, you bum.
I've had those for 40 years.
Well, I've got that curio cabinet in my room
Uh-huh.
that has a lot of keepsakes from the generations of my mother's family. And one of them, somebody had made a tiny crocheted hat and a tiny bag and attached it to it. And when I was growing up, my stepmom Stephanie taught me how to crochet. And I made a replica of it, which sits in that curio cabinet next to it.
Oh, okay. You made that.
Yeah, I made it and to replicate the one that one of my ancestors had made.
Do you
And I
remember?
also have old bottles of perfume, and I have old bits and bobs of costume jewelry. Some of them are just single earrings. Like there's a pair in there. I don't have all the jewels on it. Like I said, it's just costumes paste. But one of them is a set of earrings, and it's floral baskets.
Mm-hmm.
It's a woven basket design, and then flowers, blossoms coming out of it. And that was on clip-on earrings, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
So let me ask you this. You've had all this stuff for decades, right?
Yeah.
So do you know some story in your head, some memory connected with each piece so that you know exactly where you got it?
No, that's the thing. I ended up getting handed these things down from my mother.
But that's not what I mean. I
en
mean,
masse.
you know
I know
where they all come from
Well, I know that's the thing. She couldn't remember. I only know where some of the things
into your
come
life.
from.
Not
I know where it came into my life.
right. That's
Yes,
what I'm
that's
saying.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when we moved in here, not long after we moved in here, I put that little tiny wooden shelf thing on the wall in my room, and I had all that crap on it, little collectible toys and gimmicks I've
Is it
had
a
for.
printer's trade thing, or
It
is it?
might have been something like that. But what happened to all that junk? Do you remember that little blue plastic businessman that I chewed up as a kid?
Well, didn't you put them into your memory jars of stuff?
No, I wouldn't have put that little man in there. No, that's stuff I just find randomly.
I don't know then.
That's what I was just thinking about that. That stuff I collect in the jars, that has no sentimental
Oh.
attachment to me.
Oh.
That's just shit I picked up for aesthetic purposes to stick in the jars. But I have crap that I keep. I mean,
As a kid, as you were a kid, and you valued. Oh, what was you had $6 Million Man stuff, didn't you?
yeah,
Planet of the
all I
Apes
have
too?
all I have left of the $6 million man is his head,
Oh,
which
no.
sits on one of the shelves in my room.
Don't worry, we can rebuild him.
And the I have some plastic Planet of the Apes crap somewhere.
Oh Lord,
Did I ever tell you that story about the playset?
what was it again?
Okay, I had to go into the hospital when I was a kid. Maybe I don't know how old, 5 or something. I had to go in twice. Once for pneumonia and once to get my tonsils out. Now I don't know what occasion this was, but like the day before or something. I was goofing off in the kitchen and I climbed up on a chair, got up on the counter, opened up the high cabinets, and there this Planet of the Apes playset was in the box,
Oh
And
my.
so I'm like to my mother, like, what is this? What is this? She goes, oh, that's for some other little boy that I know.
That's mean. She should just give it to you.
She had bought it for me to give it to me in the hospital as like a little cheer me up thing, something
Yeah.
to play with in the hospital bed. And here I found it like the day before, but that I did a painting about that years later, of this little boy falling from the cabinet, falling from the counter, because the spectacle of this Planet of the Apes thing is just bursting out at him. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'll tell you a scene from Dante's Inferno from my memories. I had my tonsils out, and they put me to sleep. They said, we're going to put this gas on now. You breathe the gas in. It's probably going to... Listen to this. Now, your father owns a service station, doesn't he? Yeah. Now, you've probably smelt a lot of gas up there. So when you smell this, you might be reminded of the gas you smelled at your father's service station. What a bizarre thing to bring up. But anyway, so now next, so I pass out. I wake up in this room full of little caged beds. In each one, I'm in one, and little kids are in all the other ones, and we're all screaming and crying at the top of our lungs. You just wake up in this hell of people just like your age in cages, all screaming.
Was there any swelling or anything?
Yeah, my throat was in pain. That's the main reason I was screaming. So they and my mother told me, well, when I had my tonsils out, they fed me ice cream and Coca-Cola every day afterwards. It's good for your throat. There was no ice cream. There was no Coca-Cola.
But I thought you got chicken and rice.
That was the pneumonia trip, I think.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I had the tumors taken out of my throat?
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up and my throat was so swollen they pulled out 5 inches of tumors. And I was just talking about this.
Pleasant image.
I was just talking about this the other day. I had to get biopsies at different angles to prep for this horrible, horrible surgery. And it was so large that they had to go in and biopsy multiple areas on the front of my throat. And the surgeon who was doing it said, okay, I want you to sit on your hands. I'm going to numb the site on the skin, but you will feel it go in. Then he holds up this needle in front of me, and it's a bore needle. It's got a large gauge bore on it. But when I got out of that surgery, it was like that large bore needle was nothing compared to what they had taken out of my throat.
Well, was this the hospital up in Gainesville?
No, that was my lady surgery. And
Okay.
that one, I was completely looped out of my
Well,
head.
what I
because
remember
the
about-
surgical suite was broken. And they streamlined everybody into one surgical suite because one of the other ones had, the AC was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kept me sedated for the better part of 5 hours prior to the surgery time. It delayed the surgery time. And I was looped out of my head. I have zero memory. But you had to tell me about it.
Well, the thing I remember about that trip is
Me throwing up.
that hospital was probably the most futuristic looking sort of design I've ever been in.
At the time, Northeast Georgia
And
Medical was
it was like this
very
mezzanine. You walked in this huge, like, big area down below, reception or whatever. But then there's a mezzanine that was pretty big with, chairs to sit on and crap. And, well, I remember you and I sitting there and they had a Gideon Bible in there or something. And we started writing in it and making fun of it.
Oh, my
and
God.
putting all these little sarcastic comments,
So the doctor from Athens had sent me up there because there were no oncologists for what they needed to do in Athens. They didn't have reproductive oncology here in Athens at the time. They've since had it. And she sent me up to this doctor, Dr. Green. And I'm in his waiting room, and I'm like, oh, my God. And he finally comes in, and he's like 5 years older than me. I'm like, oh. And he was so nerdy. Well, apparently, I was so fucking out of my head with drugs on that surgery that my doctor got a note from the nurses that said, apparently she thinks that Dr. Green is cute but very nerdy. I had said it when he walked into the surgical suite.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Thank God I have no memory of embarrassing myself that badly.
All I remember is being with you in the little room afterwards, the recovery room or whatever, and I'm forgetting. I'm thinking about the throat thing. The other thing, I was just there to drive. I was not there to inspect.
Yeah, they sent me home same day, and I got home, and I've got 30-something stitches in me, and I called the doctor's office horrified, and I said, I signed up for X, and I come home, and I was expecting 5 or 6 stitches. And they said, well, when we went in, we realized it was stage 1, 2, and 3. So we had to go out and remove as much as possible, and that's why you got 30 stitches in you. I'm like, oh my God. You sent me home same day. The throat, I had fewer stitches than that because it was only about 4 inches long when they took it out initially. And my throat swelled up so badly. I was miserable. And I was in a bad way. And they kept me overnight for that, and I had fewer stitches.
I don't want to go under the knife ever again. So, if anything happens, you let me die, okay?
Ditto.
All right, good.
I'm getting sick of this being sick. I'm getting sick of being in pain every day. I'm getting
Well,
sick.
we are getting
hopping
older.
around. Yeah, but I mean, there are days I can barely walk now, and it's just.
Did you want another sip of your drink? You seem to be.
I left my Cosmo glass in there, and I don't really want to get up.
I'll go get it for you. Okay. I'm getting up now, folks, from the sofa. It's a cushion in the floor.
It's.
What?
You'll figure it out.
One's in a champagne glass and
A champagne. Yeah.
goblet or whatever. Where the hell?
I don't know.
Okay.
Baby, I don't know.
You've drank everything except for what's in the shaker.
Well, I don't want what's in the shaker.
What's
I mean,
that?
I want what's in the shaker. I don't want to drink it out of the shaker.
Do you want me to pour it into something?
Well, there's the coops right there.
You want the coupe you already had, though.
I do, but I don't know what to do with this, sweetheart.
It's right here. I just thought you mean you had one that had stuff in it already.
No, I drained that.
Okay. Do I need to mix this or anything?
No, just.
Okay, hold on. I was never really one for making drinks. I would just drink whiskey straight or brandy straight.
This thing.
Became a big brandy fan near the end there. They had
They?
I'm gonna tell you who they is, and if you just be patient. There was a liquor store in town called Package Warehouse. It may still be open.
Was this the one on Alps?
Yeah, it was
No,
a
that
very.
was Raised and Crystal.
Was it?
Retired.
They it was a pretty popular liquor store, especially for college kids and stuff, and it was just jam packed.
Yeah.
There was no space in that store. But anyway, used to go in there. They had a sale on this Spanish brandy, Tres Torres, Spanish brandy, and it was cheap and it was really tasty. And it, do you want to pause this?
I spilled some of this and I need to rinse my shirt off.
Oh, okay. Oh.
It's got cranberry juice in there, right?
Yeah, you think it'll stain it?
Yes.
I'm looking.
It'll cool me off a little.
I'm looking at a stove which has homemade mushroom gravy, baked potatoes, and homemade rolls. And there's some other food around here to eat. Oh, leftover macaroni and cheese.
We finished off the roasted carrots.
Yeah, they were tasty, weren't they?
Oh God, I love roasted carrots. Well, they were cooked as long as the baked potatoes.
I went through a phase years ago where I was eating raw carrots. You can only keep that up so long.
I've found the best way to make baked potatoes. Just clean them, stick them with a knife, roll them in oil, sprinkle them with garlic salt. Put those and prepared carrots in a pan with the olive oil, garlic salt, and a little bit of water. Cover it over an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. You walk away and everything's divine. It's perfect with that water getting steamed in there and then the garlic salt on the...
Those potatoes, I had one earlier with a lot of butter melted inside of it, but it still wasn't salty enough for me. I was thinking whatever you did to cook it, it should have been some...
With the gravy?
No, I haven't had anything to make gravy yet, no.
No, you need to add salt to your potatoes, sweetheart.
I hate adding salt to stuff. I'm afraid I'll get addicted
Well,
to it.
usually you like to pour that premium soy sauce.
That's true. That's true. I have no
And
problem using
sometimes
soy
you'll
sauce.
add bacon bits, the soy bacon bits. Those are salty too.
Yeah. Um. So it'll be a long time before I eat anything. Oh fuck! What time is it? Is that say 9:15?
9:10, I think.
I gotta take my pills in a minute. Let's see how long.
20 minutes.
Let's see how long we've been
Just
recording.
listen.
Oh my god, we've been recording 55 minutes. So we're close
We
to our.
do blabber on, don't we?
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the show. Nothing but worry.
And note, we haven't worried about politics at all during this.
I don't care. I've washed my hands. I haven't
I'm
looked at
so
news
sick of
sites
this shit.
in weeks, and I don't want to bring it up now.
Okay.
But the point is, nothing but worry. Just blabber on.
Yes. Blabber, blah, 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 blah.
So just blabber on. Nothing but worry. So just blabber on. There you go.
Okay.
That sounds good. I would assume blabber comes from the word palaver.
Maybe.
Meaning to talk. Palaver is like an English corruption of palaver. Yeah, it's got to be.
Close
That's got to.
enough.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
We made it up.
I
Look at
love.
the internet.
I have always been enamored of the sound of words and how you pronounce things, and it's like it bothers me when people claim that the L in folk or yolk is silent. It's not. I pronounce it. These are my folk music. You can hear the L. This is the yolk of the chicken egg. What's the other word that
Yolk is on the
Yolk.
oxen. It has no L. Your,
Like yolk of
your-
oxen.
the-
Yeah.
Your family are your folks. The music is folk.
I don't know.
And the word pen versus pen. Pen is what you write with.
I was thinking about that
It's E versus I.
I was
There
thinking
are
about it just
subtle
yesterday.
differences.
But I was thinking about it in terms of there's the German word Fenster, which means dark, and Fenster, which is window. And I imagine their ears are fine tuned to that vowel.
And here in
difference.
Georgia, when you hear the words, you just think some crazy religious preacher guy that does these crazy paintings up in North Georgia.
Howard Finster, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you think of when you hear that word.
I even
Mispronounced
when
some
he
way.
was big, I just even then I didn't see the point. It was just so.
I didn't get
so
into
what?
Joni Mabe and all the Elvis stuff that she did either.
You know,
and I was like,
I didn't either.
What's the big deal? Go away.
The only cool thing about that
And-
exhibit, I saw.
I didn't get into Keith Haring either.
No, I didn't either.
And Basquiat was right out.
But she had that traveling Elvis exhibit thing, and they had it at the Tate Center back before they fucked the Tate Center up.
Yeah.
And I went in there, and the only thing that I thought was cool was she had dug a hole out of the wall and inset this plexiglass covered little Elvis shrine to Elvis. It was all made out of cut out crap with glittery gold. It was pictures of Elvis cut out of magazines and stuff. But the fact that she inset it in the wall and made it like a diorama, 3D type thing, I thought that was cool. But
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my aunt who had a shrine to Elvis. In her basement, she had 2 shrines. And one shrine was to my Uncle Thomas. And that was her husband. And he was a not so famous amateur golfer. But she thought the world of him and had all of his trophies down there. And all these pictures of him, these clippings and stuff. And him meeting famous golfers, which he was number one. And then she had a shrine to Elvis. And I was at my Maymay's house for some reason or another.
no, back up 1 second. Why do you say
the-
my Maymay? Is that just a family thing to say?
Well, she was my Maymay, and she's Maymay.
Okay.
It's both her name and what she was. She was our Maymay.
Okay.
And I was down there for whatever reason, and Elvis died. And Sherry Marie, my aunt, and my cousin came down to my aunt's house and go, oh, did you hear the news? Elvis has died. So the shrine went up after that. And, I mean, these were people, my cousin Sherry, she was She was loony. She'd spent some time at Milledgeville. Everybody in Georgia knows what that means. And so she was so into Elvis that she excluded all others. She gave up the Beatles when they stopped singing, like, I Want to Hold Your Hand. She didn't like the new stuff. She thought Elvis was better than the Beatles.
Well, a lot of people did. Let me ask you a question. So you remember where you were when you heard the news Elvis died?
I was at my Maymay's for some reason or another.
Okay, I'll tell you where I was.
Where?
He died in August, so there was no school.
Okay, that would explain why I was
I'm
at Maymay's.
home alone, and I was laying on my parents' bed. They had this clock radio, old-fashioned thing. I wish I had that today.
Did it have the flip digital?
No,
number?
this is pre that.
Oh my God!
This is
so
a
it
regular
has the
clock face.
You turn it
Right,
with your hand.
right.
It's got a knob that comes
One
out.
speaker.
Yes.
Anyway, and they announced on the news Elvis is dead. And, you know, to me, Elvis was just these shitty movies they put on Saturday afternoons, you know.
No, it was so much more because I had my Aunt Maria and my cousin Sherry. They were all the time going on about Elvis. And when it wasn't Elvis, it was the Jewish Elvis Neil Diamond.
Well, the thing is, I was into Elvis very briefly when I first got into rock and roll. But there was just so much more to be had with like the Beatles or the Who and I just like Elvis, like 10, 15 songs and then okay.
My Aunt Marie, her husband was the golfer. He basically let a man run his dairy into the ground so he could go play golf all the time. I know. They weren't allowed in the regular clubs. And they had to play at the public club. And they would always go on Sundays, where everybody else was in church. And that was where my two uncles on that side were out golfing with my Uncle Thomas one Sunday morning, and a storm came up. And Macon's just known for being flat and gnats and all that kind of stuff.
It's horrible, folks. If you've never been, it's horrible.
Yeah. And so it was a public course. It wasn't the private courses. And they had pine trees. So this storm starts up, and they went running for the shelter to get out from the rain. Well, lightning struck the pine tree that was next to the metal shelter they'd sought refuge under, and it knocked all of them out. And my Uncle Charles was a small little guy, maybe 6 or 8 at this point, and he was the first one that woke up. And he said that when he woke up, he thought Uncle Thomas and his brother Denny were all dead, that they'd all been struck dead. And they didn't come around for a couple of minutes, so he just sat there blabbing.
Well, I'll tell you something. I think even further south than Macon is Valdosta.
Yes,
and that's
much further south.
It's like, it really is an outpost of hell. We had to drive down there probably my senior year to play a football game with some other school down there. And I swear to God,
Did the gnats eat you alive
the
with mosquitoes
football field, part of the football field had exposed concrete. It was like sporadic crabgrass and then red mud.
too? No, it wouldn't be
And
red.
the-
It would have been white
Well,
yellow.
whatever. Anyway, and then a piece of concrete poking up from some other structure into the field. And the boys on the other team, they were grain fed. I mean,
yeah.
they were beasts.
They're growing big down there.
What a
pig farm.
horrible existence.
Yeah. Do you remember we went to what's the famous prison camp? Andersonville Memorial.
Yeah.
And we were out there, and of course it's below the gnat line, and there are millions upon years of sand accumulation. So wherever you go, there's sand that comes up underneath the crabgrass. And when we got back to the hotel, our shoes had sand spurs embedded
I remember
in
that. Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, this is
Up
hell.
on that Indian mound we went to, those
that was the
suede shoes.
Okogie.
Yeah, but those suede shoes that I still had, they had stuff sticking out of them like thorns.
For all the relations I had down in Macon, we never once went to Okmulgee Mounds. It wasn't until you and I got married that I went there with you. And again,
We've had so many fucking cheap vacations. Bonnie's
Yeah.
cooked together something. We can go to this by-water town and look. They have a cave where you can throw pennies in.
Well, I happen to be married to Arnoldville's largest miser. So whenever we go into a trip, I have to go and find out every free spot there is. Fortunately, I have relatives all over the state, so I can go, hey, Aunt Hazel, what's free around there? And we went to Warner Robins to the airplane
Now
museum.
that was
Cool.
that
as
was
hell.
really really cool. That place it is a monstrous couple of buildings with airplanes and spaceships and simulators and all kinds of crap.
They even have a place where you can get Coca-Cola. Past making, you have to get Coca-Cola. You have Coca-Cola and hot dogs and hamburgers, but of course Lance wouldn't let us get anything because he's a cheap-ass bastard. Refer back to an early episode when we talked about going to Stone Mountain and Lance refusing to buy us anything. We all had to share one candy bar and one drink.
Do you remember when we went to the actual Georgia State Farmers Market down near the airport?
Yes, I do.
And something else
And-
happened that day, and I can't remember what it was.
The Google Maps were driving me nuts. I was
This is
navigating
this is
that day.
pre
You were
Google
driving.
Maps.
No, that is not true. I had printed it out because we didn't have it on the cell phone.
This is 20 years ago, easily.
Yeah, I printed it out. It wasn't 20 years ago, but anyway, we went down there and it was a big nothing.
It was a big nothing. I expected all these deals.
Going and find
Well, that's what I was thinking. What else did we do that day? Because we got out there and we walked around for about 20 minutes. And we're like,
Did
you
we
know,
go
this
to
is
Oxford? Emory's Oxford campus that day?
no, because the kids were with us when we went to the farmers market. That's what I'm saying. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. It was back
One
when
day,
Diesel drove, and
I think it was the
navigated.
day we went to the Atlanta Zoo.
Oh God, we got caught in the
And
traffic.
caught in traffic, we're driving. And finally, when we popped out the other side, we were near DeKalb Farmers Market, and there was this gigantic Italian pizza place called
Built in a warehouse.
Anthony's. And so it's the kind of place you go in, piece of this and that, and they give you a ticket, when they call your number out. But anyway, so we used to sit down at a table near the register, and I said, "Look, I gotta go to the bathroom." So I start walking towards the men's room, and I'm walking. It's like they've attached one building to another.
It was one warehouse after
It was an
another.
enormous restaurant. And I was thinking, do they really justify all these tables and chairs?
Apparently they get packed. But yeah, I remember we got calzones and slices, and I got a Caesar salad that day.
It made everything all
And,
better after that
yeah.
horrible wait in the traffic.
We had gotten stuck somewhere after leaving the zoo. It was between the famous graveyard in Cabbagetown and Virginia Highlands. And there was a race, I think, that day. It was Red Bull.
You're
race.
right. And I had never heard of the damn drink before then.
Yeah, they had a Red Bull race, and they closed off parts of Virginia Highlands.
Yeah.
They had it blockaded.
I
for
gotta tell a
people
story about that in a
where-
minute.
That were like soapbox derby things and stuff, and it made traffic even worse. And so we're like, okay, turn around. And at one point, Reed's going, "There's Junkman's daughter." I'm like, we should have gone. We're like, no, we're just going to turn around and we're going to get the hell out of here. And we found Anthony's, and it was such a relief.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. Virginia Highlands is like a neighborhood right downtown Atlanta. And it's known for being a predominantly gay neighborhood, I guess. But
It's a
anyway,
hippie neighborhood. Vegans, a lot of artists. It's everything. It's all over.
well, anyway, I was down in there years ago, and I had to get gas. And I stopped pulling this little place, and so there's this one guy running the register, and there's a line of people, and there's people coming in and out getting gas. And this guy comes in, and he goes, "How about a little gas out here?" have a little gas out here, huh? And the guy goes, you pay? He goes, yes, I paid. How much you pay? He's like, I got $5 worth of gas. And he holds up a little piece of candy. He goes, and a goddamn atomic fireball. Oh my God, it was so funny. Oh God.
Oh my God. The Carter Center is down there and the graffiti alley's down there too. It's a nice little area. It's just so busy all the time.
The only parts of Georgia that are worth a shit are
Athens.
Athens. Oh God! Again with the Savannah. What is
How would you know? You don't go. You never take me anywhere. You never take me anywhere.
Well, I mean, I have promised to take you there next time we can afford a vacation. But what is there to do in Savannah? I don't drink. I don't eat seafood. I mean, it's just sit there and sweat, I guess.
At this point, my fingers can stay up for a very long time.
But when you get old, Charleston's better. I mean, it's the same thing, but a little slightly better to me.
Well, Charleston, I made certain to research it, and we went to the zoo up there. We went to a historic tour, downtown walking area. I went to the Citadel. We all went out to the island. We took the boat out there. We went to the beach.
Where the kids
Yeah.
insisted on scaring us with falling off the boat every single second, running around like crazy.
I had to hold Peter in his Kenny. Remember he had the you killed Kenny coat?
Oh, the hooded coat.
The
yeah.
little hooded coat. I had to pull on the hood to keep him from walking off the edge of the damn ferry. We saw dolphins on that, didn't we?
I don't remember that at all.
Mm.
We went to the USS Yorktown.
Yeah, and we did the submarine there too. I was thinking about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, years ago when I was, God, I can't remember how old I was.
Oh, we went to that museum and we saw they had just excavated that submarine from the Civil War.
Oh, that museum,
and
yeah.
They also had
They had a whale
giant
skeleton in
whale
there.
skeleton. The kids were like, "Wow, it's so big."
But years ago, I went with my family to Charleston, and we went to the Yorktown, which is an old aircraft carrier. They have parked there. And I saw a glimpse of this girl as we were walking into the place, and I didn't give a shit about the aircraft carrier. I was trying to find this chick I'd seen. And I walked all around for like an hour trying to find this girl that had walked in. And then I just sort of turned my head, because I've given up. She was working at the little snack counter at the place, and we talked for a long time. And
how old were you?
Maybe 14. 13, 14, something like that.
We also went to a lot of seconds shops up there. Remember? We ended up getting some great coats.
Yeah, we did.
And some good clothes.
But wasn't.
And we ate at that wonderful restaurant. It was at sea level, and the Coca-Cola was perfect for the bottles.
Well, I was going to say about this chick. We exchanged addresses, and I corresponded with her for several months. And then when I was 20, I believe, my roommate and I were up late drinking and nothing to do. So I found her phone number and called her, and I just made a fool out of myself, You know, she goes, "Are you drunk? Yeah, don't you drink? No, I don't. Oh, you got to come see us." Or just stupid shit.
Like I said, I don't like you when you're drunk. You act differently.
Yeah. Oh dear. All right.
That reminds me of the trip that my sister and I took with my bio mom and her husband. And we got in the pool, and we're teenage girls, middle school maybe, early
Yeah.
high school. And we're in the pool talking to each other, and these boys come over and start talking to us. And Phil comes over and goes, "What are you boys doing? Go over!" And we're like, "What the hell? We're in a public fucking pool. You can have boys come talk to us? Talk about a jerk."
Oh my God. Wow.
Now, I know we've been rambling on too long this time.
So you want to call it quits now? I guess so. I bet it's been an hour and 15.
Jesus, it's been at least that.
Yep. All right. So I guess that's it.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.